A and be seen. If you have a question, press the virtual hand on the screen and I'll invite you to speak one person at a time. Please do not begin speaking until I invite you in. If you have a comment to make, you should only raise the symbol of a hand when I ask for comments. And again, you will be invited to speak one person at a time. Every effort will be made to ensure that the questions and comments are asked in order of a councillor raising the hand. But because of the complexities of teams, sometimes it's difficult to see who's put the hands up first, etc. If for any reason a member has cause to leave the meeting, then they must indicate this to me before leaving. Please raise your hand to speak. Case law is clear. You are not allowed to vote if you haven't heard the full debate. So if your screen freezes but you have heard the whole debate, you may use your discretion over whether or not to vote. However, if you did not hear the whole debate, then you cannot vote. When we come to the recommendations, you will be invited to vote then. Could I ask all officers and guests who are joining remotely to turn off the cameras so that only the elected members and lay members are on the screen? You should turn on your camera and microphone while you are speaking on an item, but please turn them back off again afterwards.
Councillor Gibbs has a question, Chair.
I'm sorry?
Councillor Gibbs has a question.
Oh, Councillor Gibbs, yeah.
I don't know if I've been a little bit early now, Chair. I've just had an email of Clive Jones saying he's having problems. He won't be attending tonight's meeting.
Oh, thanks for letting us know.
So I think everyone that is attending is now present then, Chair.
Right, you are then. So if I could ask Democratic Services to mute everyone and begin the recording. Okay, thanks. So, Croeso, welcome to the Planning, Regulatory and Licensing Committee, Wednesday the 18th of January. Please note that today's meeting will be recorded. The recording may be broadcast on the authority's internet. All attendees will be in view with a camera, and by attending, you are consenting to being filmed and to the possible use of those images and sound recordings being used as outlined above. So the first item on the agenda is apologies for absence. We've got Councillor Clive Jones and Councillor Ernie Galsworthy. There are no other apologies, are there? No. The next item on the agenda are declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest?
Councillor Carter, Chair.
Oh, yes. Unfortunately, I can't see the hands coming up. So you have to let me know. Oh, Councillor Carter.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Two questions really, and then another follow-up question. Item 3, we've got Palace Homes. Can you tell me who the owner of Palace Homes is? And item 4, we've got Robert Price as the applicant. And can you tell me which Robert Price that is? And there are valid reasons behind that, Chair.
I'll leave the planning officer to answer that, Councillor Carter. I'm assuming this is in relation to whether or not there's a declaration of interest.
It is, Geraint, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Perhaps David Cross could tell us the answer to that.
Hi, Chair. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, the applicants, there's 2 applicants for the Trevor Close one. It's both Mr. Robert Price and Kevin Jones. And I think Hugh knows perhaps more so on the other application, but I think Robert Price is also the applicant on the other application, which is the Maesgwyn one. Okay.
In that case, Chair, I will declare. I'll have to declare an interest in item 3 and item 4. Item 3, and the same as item 4. I know Kevin Jones quite well, and I used to work at Merthyr Football Club with Robert Price, so I'm going to have to declare a personal and prejudicial interest unless I'm told otherwise.
No, I'm not going to tell you anything otherwise, Councillor Carter. It obviously is a matter for you as to whether you declare an interest, and you've declared it personal and prejudicial on both.
Great.
Items.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for that then.
So I can leave the meeting, Clive. I don't need to come back on because there's only 2 items. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, that you can leave.
Yes.
Yes, that's it.
Like,
Okay. Thanks for attending.
Right.
Okay. Thanks. Item 3 on the agenda. Planning application P160077, land to the rear of 53 to 83 Edward Street and 1 to 7 Tye at Pant. So I understand David Cross is going to outline this report for us.
Thank you, Chair. I'll just share the PowerPoint as well. Bear me a second. That come up for everyone?
Yes, thanks.
Okay. So this application relates to an area of overgrown grassland adjacent to Trevor Close. Measures approximately 1.15 hectares. The site itself sits between 2 established residential areas with Breckenrise to the northwest and Edwards Terrace then to the southeast, as you can see here. So this is an aerial view of the site. So you can see the established residential areas. The site is largely the majority of that sort of grassed area in between. Outline planning permission is now sought for a residential scheme comprising 21 self-build plots. All matters relating to access, appearance, landscaping, layout and scale have all been reserved for future considerations. So this application is only looking to seek to establish the principle of developing the site for residential purposes. Next slide. Okay, so this is in support of the application. An indicative layout has been provided just to demonstrate how the site could be developed. So essentially, we've got a row of houses along the one side backing onto the properties, Breckenrise there, and then you've got a number of properties then positioned, some of which back onto the lane where there's a number of garages, and then there's 3 properties which would be orientated to overlook the public space. You can see that the road which currently serves Trevor Close would extend essentially through the middle of the site, and then the green areas on the plan are areas of to be landscaped with a buffer zone along the sort of the northwestern part of the site for bat habitats. Following the consultation and publicity exercises undertaken, no objections were raised by the consultees or the local residents. It should be noted that the northwestern half of the site, which is this top part on the screen, currently benefits from full planning permission, which was previously granted back in 2011 for 28 houses. So the principle of residential development across part of the site has already been established. This proposal, in effect, seeks to incorporate the additional land to the southeast here, which would enable essentially larger plots to be provided. And although there would be, I guess, an overall reduction in the number of houses when you consider the previous scheme, which had 28, this is balanced with the fact that there's a need to provide landscaped areas, sustainable drainage solutions, and protected habitats environment. So although the density is slightly less, it allows it to accommodate other requirements as well. So in essence, some of the impacts of this proposal would either be either similar or no worse than that of the previous scheme, given the lower density. In regards to planning obligations, a viability assessment of the development was undertaken, and a financial contribution is sought towards the provision of affordable housing. A contribution has also previously been received from the applicants towards the improvement of the existing playground facility. So that was part of the earlier permission, and that's been taken into consideration as part of this development. In order to secure this as part of the permission, it would be necessary for a Section 106 agreement to be entered into with the applicant as well. Additionally, the proposal also seeks to provide 6 parking spaces, if the plan loads up, along the highway opposite Trevor Close. So as you can see in this plan, there's a sort of a faint red outline. That is the existing hammerhead at the end of the road, and quite often it's used for parking as well as, to some extent, turning, albeit restricted. So the intention here is to, which was a benefit that was also put forward as part of the earlier residential scheme, and that is to provide 6 off-street parking spaces, which would be available for the local residents. Within the site itself, the individual plots would have their own parking incorporated on driveways. So in conclusion, it's been adequately demonstrated that a suitable residential scheme could be brought forward as part of a reserved matters application, which could integrate well with the surrounding properties without giving rise to any significant impacts on highway safety, residential amenity and the natural environment. Accordingly, it's recommended that the application be granted outline approval, subject to the conditions set out on pages 13 to 17 of the report, and subject to the applicant entering into a Section 106 agreement to secure the affordable housing contributions. There's a couple of photos just to give you an impression of the site. I think parts of the site now are probably a bit more overgrown than at the time when I took these photos, but the picture on the left is a view towards what do they call it now? Bradley Close. You can see there's a retaining wall across the back there with a fence line above. There's a bit of an embankment and there's quite a bit of vegetation. So that a lot of that there would be retained as part of the application. There was a need for habitat environment to be retained for foraging bats. So the proposal, which is one of the conditions, would introduce the garden boundaries towards the bottom end of that embankment. The photo on the right, you can see you've got Edwards Terrace in the background. It's largely just a rear lane with various garages. There's obviously a difference in level. So as part of any detailed application, there'll be a need to provide driveways that cross over this embankment. So there'll be a bit of reprofiling. There's also a water course that runs through the sort of the bottom of that slope, and that would be need to be culverted as part of the detailed application as well. The photo on the left here now just gives you an impression of how it sits in relation to Trevor Close. You can see there's not much of an outlook for these properties, and much of the front elevation is obscured as well at the ground level with the existing fence. It's likely that the developer would maintain some kind of boundary treatment there as the development of that plot. The photo on the right, that sort of gives you a view across the open space opposite the site to the southwest. At the moment there's a footpath that runs in front of some of the properties that are proposed. That would obviously be retained. You can see on the right here there's a bit of the hammerhead. So the 6 parking spaces proposed would be located where you've got a bit of a grass verge here. There's already some planting at the front of this area, which is a bit more established than you can see in that picture. And then finally, this is just a photo view from the rear lane behind Edwards Terrace, so you can sort of get a better impression across the site. So there's a couple of level changes there. You've got some vegetation which has grown much more since I took my photos. This part of it would be lost as a result of development, but much of the vegetation in the background would be retained. And that is the site proposal. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks very much. Has anyone got any questions? I can't see the screen.
No, I can't. There's none, Chair.
None.
Chair.
Oh, hang on, Councillor Gibbs.
Councillor Gibbs.
Up.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Thanks, Geraint. My question is, Chair, in relation to the houses 1 to 3 Trevor Close, isn't there going to be some sort of blockage of light there? With these properties being higher?
Right. Well, that's a photo of what it's like now. The final design of the development hasn't been finalised, so that at this stage the layout is just indicative of how it may come forward. At the moment, the windows at the upper level are very small, so I don't imagine there's very much natural light coming in through those. And on the ground floor, there's already a boundary treatment, which again, they've got quite small windows. It seems that the houses have been designed with the main aspects actually being to the rear. There is an element that the development would, I guess, what would the orientation be? So those elevations are largely on the northern side of the properties. So most of their natural light would actually come from the rear aspect of the properties. So I don't think these houses would have that much of an impact on the natural light that they would receive, because any shadows from the buildings would actually cast away from the properties.
Okay, thank you, David. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Michelle Jones is next, Chair.
Did I see Councillor Clive Jones' hand up?
No, it's Councillor Michelle Jones next,
Chair.
Michelle
Jones, I beg your pardon, yeah.
Thank you. Did there used to be, I heard you mention it briefly just now, did there used to be a park on this area for children, a playground?
If I go to the aerial photograph, I'll give you the best impression. So I think historic, so the main formal playground is further down south. So this is the extent of it. There's a bit of a field area here. I think this is used perhaps as a bit of a natural soakaway to the area, hence some of the planting to help with that. But this half of the site, I think historically.
My mic is not.
Can you not hear me very well?
Yeah, it's fine. Go on, sorry.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, this part of the site, I think historically was used as a bit of I'd say sports field. I don't know how formal it was. It was certainly, when I looked at this area back when I was assessing the residential development on that side, it was a maintained grassed area. So it was, I suppose, to some extent used as a bit of a sports field, but it hasn't been like that for quite some time now. It's very, very well overgrown. There's some tracks there, but I don't know if that's as a result of any recent activity.
Okay, so there was no playground there at any time then that's been taken away. Right, okay. Thank you very much.
No playground, no.
Councillor John Thomas is next, Chair.
Oh, okay, Councillor Thomas.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. My question is to the bottom but one paragraph on page 4 regarding the hammerhead at Trevor Close. That sort of area, especially in the evening times, is full of cars as you drive up. The hammerhead is full of cars. The pavement opposite Trevor Close, cars are parked on there. Do you think, Dave, that 6 parking spaces are going to be adequate for that area? Because, you could have a lot of traffic congestion going up and down there at certain times.
So from a highway point of view, yes, there is a lot of congestion generally in terms of on-street parking. It's not so bad along the main stretch of the road. There is, abilities for cars to still go up and down. But obviously, the impact of parking in the hammerhead itself does, reduce its ability to accommodate turning, which is what it's there for.
Yeah.
So the intention was, obviously, a lot of the houses in the area do have parking, but particularly Trevor Close, they don't actually have any sort of designated parking. So a lot of it is on the street. So the intention between the 6 parking spaces is to try and help alleviate what would have taken place in the Hammerhead. So it may be that there's still scope for some on-street parking, but obviously this is intended to try and help that further. There is a new Hammerhead at the other end, which is much larger than this, so that would present a much better turning area. In terms of traffic movements, as I say, this top part of the site originally had permission for 28 houses. And although this is a larger scheme, we're now only looking at 21 plots. So in terms of traffic generation, this would present a lower impact than the scheme that's been previously granted on a smaller part of the site. And that I should highlight, that's an extant permission still. Some works had commenced at the time, which has allowed that permission to remain valid.
Right, thanks, Dave. I have got a further question, Chair, if that's okay.
Oh, yes, that's okay.
It's the bottom paragraph on the same page there, where it says the submitted plans indicate the existing water course that extends through the centre of the site could be culverted and landscaped, and a landscape corridor provided. Would that be done by the applicant, or would that come as a cost to the local authority to put that culvert in?
This would be at the cost of the developer. So if you can see on the plan, not particularly clear in this illustration, but you can see a sort of a dashed shaded area running through. So this is the alignment of the culvert at the end of the site. There are some sort of ditches which would be retained as they are. So where it crosses through alongside the road, that would be culverted, and there'll be various crossover points then to access some of the driveways. But the details of the landscaping scheme, the culverting would be regulated through our engineers. And if there's any surface water management, that again would come through as part of SAB. And then the landscape areas, that would be the responsibility of the developer as part of the development.
Lovely, thank you, Dave. That's me, Chair, thank you.
Oh, Councillor Clive Jones.
Chair, I had a bit of technical difficulties at the start, but I've joined and I've seen most of the slides. Am I able to ask questions now?
Better
well,
check.
technically, you need to be present for the whole of the debate, Chair. So you need to, Councillor Jones.
Right. Okay, I'll stay silent.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, yes, Michelle's put her hand down.
I put it back up again. Is that okay?
Oh yes,
Okay.
Michelle, Councillor Michelle Jones then.
Thank you. I appreciate this is just like preliminary, but do we have any indication if these houses, I appreciate this self-builds, are there any social housing going to be built here, or is it just, or don't we know at this stage?
So the affordable housing was assessed as part of the application. The developer had to provide details of the sort of anticipated costs to develop the site, and we sort of we review the viability of the scheme through the Three Dragons toolkit, which is a way of us assessing then what the impact would be of providing affordable housing on site, and whether it would be appropriate to seek a financial contribution where it can be, provided in other forms elsewhere. So in this instance, they are providing a financial contribution. But in addition to that, what we've also had to take into account is the fact they've already provided a contribution to improve the existing playground, and obviously as part of the scheme, they're providing additional parking for local residents in the area.
All right, okay, so that's what I missed at the beginning where you mentioned the playground. So could you just clarify what you said? Because I think I didn't hear you at the beginning in regards to the playground.
Yeah,
please.
sure. So in terms of the playground, as part of the previous application to develop the top half of site, as you see on the plan there, they were required to provide a financial contribution towards the improvement of the existing playground. Because they started some initial works on site, they honoured that agreement and they've made that contribution already. So given that this scheme incorporates that site, and they wouldn't obviously be developing the other scheme, that contribution is being considered as part of this now. So basically, in total, their contributions is, as set out in the report, would be £25,000 towards affordable housing and £15,000 towards improvements to the playground, which has already been provided. Yeah, so that's the financial contributions.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Are there any other questions?
Can I have one more question?
Yeah,
Sorry.
yes.
I know you've done consultation so far and there's been no objections. So will you be going back out to consultation again, or is that it for the public consultation now?
So if this application goes through as recommended, then the next stages would be for the reserve matters application. So that would be all the details, so the specific layout, the specific design of the houses, the details for the highway and the landscaping. That all of that would come back as a new application. So we would reconsult the community. If it's developed as they're looking to do as self-build plots, then we might receive a number of applications then for the individual plots as they come in, and the developer may put an application in to perhaps put some of the infrastructure like the highway works and the landscaping works. So there's potentially a number of applications that might come in the future.
Oh, that's brilliant. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Are there any further questions? If there are no questions, are there any comments?
Declan, Chair.
Oh, Councillor Salmon.
Thank you, Chair. To be honest, I've got no objections to the scheme, and to be honest, it will be nice to see this long-awaited development go ahead. From the application, it's good to see that new car parking provision is being provided for existing residents, and the paths alongside the site will be kept as well. And this development will also help with a problem with fly tipping that keeps happening on the land. I think a thank you to the developer for agreeing to put up Harris panels between the development and the houses at 1 to 3 Trevor Close for safety reasons. That's it. Thank you, Chair.
Oh, thanks. Are there any further comments?
No, Chair.
No. If there are no further comments, would someone like to propose the recommendation?
Chair, I'll propose the recommendation.
Right. Is there a seconder?
I'll second that, Chair.
Oh, lovely. If we take it to the vote, then I think we go in order of all those in favour. If you could raise your virtual hands now.
That's everyone in favour, Chair.
Oh, right. So the recommendation is carried then. Thanks very much. The next item on the agenda item 4, is planning application P220074. It's an application at Maesgwyn Industrial Estate in Kevin Coed. Is David Cross outlining this application for us?
Hugh Roberts. Well,
I'm sorry?
Hugh Roberts is going to present it.
Oh, beg your pardon. Yeah, sorry.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, this application is to increase the height of the building, currently used for general industrial purposes, last used as a vehicle repair spray garage, to provide a warehouse at ground floor with associated office at first floor. The proposal includes the cladding to the external of the building as well, render at ground floor and profile metal cladding at first floor. I can show you the plans a little bit later. Councillor Mitten has requested this application be reported to committee. The objections received as a result of the publicity exercise undertaken are summarised on pages 22 and 23 of the report. The main planning related objections relate to the impact on the amenities of neighbouring residents in terms of loss of light, overshadowing, loss of privacy, noise and disturbance, and overbearing impact. The ecological impact of the proposal and the highway safety concerns, air pollution and operating hours. There have been no objections as a result of the consultation exercise undertaken. Dave, if you can just go back to the original site location plan. Yeah, so the site is located there in red. We'll see the photographs of the building, but it's a single-story building at the moment. The properties most affected by the increase in height of these proposals are the properties to the northeast, which is 1 and 2 Cyfarthfa Gardens. Dave, on the next slide, please. Yeah, you can see the application site there with a lot of landscaping around the site and the properties again to the northeast. Members should note that the change of use of this building to a warehouse does not require planning permission. You can change the use from a general industrial use to a warehouse use of this size without the need for planning permission. So that aspect of the proposal, there can be no objection to. The building would be raised by 1.35 metres to accommodate the office space above. This would result in a maximum height of 5.6 metres. Dave, can you just show the next plan? Yeah, so that's the height of the building. As I said, it's single story at the moment, which you'll probably see in the photographs later on. You could probably see the metal cladding above the building there, with windows in the front and the side elevation, which face away from the residential property. The elevation in the top right-hand corner of that screen, you can see there's no windows in the elevation overlooking the properties, 1 and 2 Cyfarthfa Gardens. And the layout, you can see warehousing at ground floor and the office space, which is in connection with the warehousing at first floor. I think it's important to note that outline planning permission has previously been granted on this site for a pair of semi-detached houses. Dave, I think it shows on the next slide. Yeah. So this outline permission was granted, and the maximum, as outline plan applications have to do, they have to state the maximum height of the buildings, and the maximum height of these buildings that were granted was 8 to 9 meters high, substantially greater than the 5.6 meters high that the building would be if this permission was granted. You can see the impact on the neighbouring properties from 1 and 2 Cyfarthfa Gardens, the right-hand side of the proposed dwellings in that diagram below. Therefore, in terms of overbearing impact and loss of light to neighbouring properties, this permitted residential scheme would have a far greater impact than the current proposal. There would be, as highlighted on previously, there'd be no overlooking to the closest neighbouring residential properties, 1 and 2 Cyfarthfa Gardens, as there are no windows proposed in the side elevation. In terms of noise and disturbance to neighbouring residents, there could be an improvement as a result of this proposal. Not only is a warehouse office use considered to be a less noisy use than in general industrial use, but also condition can be imposed if this permission is granted that restricts hours of operation. Such a restriction does not exist for the current use of the building. It should also be noted that there is no objection from the environmental health manager. In terms of highway safety, traffic movements for near quality, it is considered the proposed use of the building could result in similar vehicular movements to the existing permitted use of the building. Nevertheless, when considering traffic movements, I would reiterate that planning permission is not required for the change use of the existing building to a warehouse. It is also noted the engineering and highways manager and environmental health manager have not objected to this application on highway safety grounds or air quality grounds. Finally, with regard to the ecological impacts of the proposals, the Council Ecologist has considered the proposal and has raised no objections subject to on-site enhancements, i.e. the provision of a bat and bird box. Dave, can you just provide the next slide, please? Yeah, so there's the existing building. As I've said, The floor area of the existing building is not changed. They're just raising the height of it to 5.6 metres, which is an increase of 1.35 metres. You can see the fences on the right-hand side of that picture are the fences to the properties in Cyfarthfa Gardens, particularly 1 and 2. And you can see the difference in height of the application site to those neighbouring properties, i.e. the neighbouring properties are raised above the level of the site we're looking at there. And the next one, Dave. Yeah, that gives a better impression of 1 and 2 Cyfarthfa Gardens and the boundary treatments that currently exist there. As pointed out, the building wouldn't have any overbearing impact, loss of light, or overlooking issues to those properties by reason of its height. You'll note from the report that substantial changes have taken place during the course of the application to actually reduce the height and position of the proposal as well. Yeah, and the bottom photograph is just the access down to the site. It's just at the bottom where the red car is on the right-hand side. Thanks, Dave. Is that it? I think that's it. Yeah, great. So, Chair, therefore, the application is recommended for approval subject to the conditions highlighted on page 26 and 27 of the report. Thanks very much.
Oh, thank you, Hugh. We go to questions. Councillor Clive Jones.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Can you tell the committee what exactly this warehouse will be utilised for? And also, from the revised scheme, I take it with a reduction in the height of the building, there will be no overlooking possible at all?
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Jones. Not aware what's going to be actually in the warehouse itself. It's a simple B8 use, so it's a storage warehouse use in that location. But obviously got associated office accommodation with it as well. You'll note that there's a condition that controls the use of the offices to the use of the warehouse building below. There won't be any overlooking to the neighbouring properties because there's no windows in that side elevation facing them. There's windows in the front elevation which overlook the street, and the other side elevation which overlook the wooded land to that side. So there isn't any overbearing impact, in our opinion, overlooking impact or loss of light impact.
Right. So coming back to the usage of this new warehouse, from a planning point of view, from a planning officer's point of view, you don't need to know what it's going to be used for, so it can be used for anything under the sun?
Well, it's got to be used for anything within a B8 planning use, which is a warehouse use, a storage use. Yes, it can be, but the current use of the premises is a general industrial use, which is a B2 use, which is which incorporates, there isn't any restriction on whatever B2 use can go in there. So, for example, you could have a garage in that location as a general use. You could have some kind of heavy machinery which operates 9 to 5 every day of the week, or even later if you wanted to. There isn't actually any restriction. So the B8 use is a far better use in terms of noise to neighbouring residents than what could potentially be used in this premises.
So, through you, Chair, as far as you know, Hugh, is this premises going to be used for what it was used for before? That is a panel beating and repainting of vehicles? You don't know?
Well, they could use it for that if they don't implement this permission. If they implement this permission, that sort of use doesn't fall in within the warehousing use. So the warehousing use is just for storage facilities in this building. If they wanted to use it for panel beating, they probably could under the current permission. But if they implemented this permission, they couldn't go back to the previous permission.
Right, just to clarify, could they use it for both a warehouse and the previous usage before?
No, because if they implement the warehouse use, they've got a B8 use. There isn't an automatic change then to a general industrial use. There is only an automatic change from a general industrial use to a warehouse use, and that tells us that a general industrial use has far more impact on neighbouring residents from a noise and disturbance point of view than a B8 use. Otherwise, it wouldn't be automatic permission.
So the owners of this building don't have to indicate to anybody what the warehouse is going to be used for.
That's correct. Yeah.
But there, you've indicated that there will be hours on limited to, I think, is it 7 o'clock Monday to Friday, 2 o'clock on a Saturday, and no working on a Sunday.
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. I'll make a comment later on, Chair. Thank you.
Are there any other questions?
No, Chair.
No other question. Well, if we go to comments, then Councillor Jones.
Well, I'm a little bit baffled, Chair, as to the fact that the owner of this revamped building doesn't have to indicate whatsoever what the warehouse is going to be used for. I must admit, if I was a neighbour who was living very close to it, I think I would be rather interested to find out what the usage of this warehouse is being built for. But it appears in planning terms, we don't have to know. So as you said, I'm a little surprised that we've got no indication, and we, by the sound of it, won't have an indication until the warehouse, until this application is approved and the warehouse is being used. Thank you.
Yeah. So, are there any other comments?
No, Chair.
No, the recommendation is that it be approved. Would someone like to propose the recommendation?
Happy to propose.
Is there a seconder?
I'll second it, Chair.
Seconder. Well, if we take it to the vote, then thanks. All, if we say that those in favour, if you could vote now. Oh. I think
we're missing one.
We're missing one. So, would anyone like to vote against? Would anyone like to abstain? Oh, we seem to. So there were 6 in favour.
8 in favour, Chair.
Oh, 8 in favour. Oh, well, it was carried then unanimously.
And
yeah.
Councillor Colburn, are you abstaining?
Oh,
you're muted, Councillor Colburn.
Councillor Colburn.
Apologies, I voted in favour. Forgot to take my hand down again after. Sorry, apologies.
Yeah, okay, thanks very much. So the recommendation was carried then. Thanks for that. The next item on the agenda is an information report. It's the delegated decision report list. The next item on the agenda, item number 6. If there's any other urgent business, I've not got any. Has anyone got anything urgent to raise? Well, I'll declare the meeting closed then. Thanks for your attendance. It's very good of you to come on Teams at short notice. So thanks very much then. Lovely.
Thank you, Chair.
Thanks all.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.